So basically, I haven't made a stock investment video in a little while, so I figured I'd pop in and make one. So the Dow Jones right now is $31,500, and that is up from a low. Let's see. That is up from a low where it had dropped to 29,888. And most of this is due to the fact that we have a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fears surrounding the possibility of unemployment, layoffs, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now. For example, the majority of the stuff that is here in America is made in China. Right now, parts of China are going through COVID lockdowns. Now, why the Chinese are still locking down that place at this point, I have no idea. The young people have already proven that COVID is not doing anything for the most part to them. Yes, there are some children who have compromised immune systems, but the vast majority of young people, through their own, their own resistance and rebellion to wearing the masks, their own resistance and rebellion to getting vaccinated. Here in New York, they literally had to, what's a good word? They had to literally bribe most New Yorkers into going and getting their vaccinations. Most of these young people refused to do it. They had to literally give these kids $100 on gift cards in order to get them to actually actively go out and get their vaccinations. And then obviously there were the other people with the COVID mandates to get a vaccination. Otherwise, they were going to lose their jobs. Now, when these morons, who we call them leaders, these Congress people, these stupid idiot fools, when they did these mandates and they said, okay, yeah, well, if you don't get this shot, we're going to lay you off or we're going to send you home without pay. What they didn't count on was the consequences that would have in parts of our economy where the employees are highly skilled. A perfect example, pilots. Many pilots who didn't want to get vaccines retired. And because they retired, it's left us at this point. Right now, we're entering July. But it left us with a pilot shortage. There's a lot of air traffic controllers, for example, who retired early because they didn't want to deal with the bullshit. And we have a shortage in air traffic controllers. We have a shortage in airport staff. And this is just the aviation industry, which is part of the reason why I'm going to mention in a little while about where the stocks are for aviation. The stocks are all down. So again, these morons that want to they try to make you believe that they're smarter than they really are. The problem is it takes it takes somebody who pays attention and it takes somebody who understands the dynamics to be able to look at these people and say, wait a minute, you're really fucking stupid and you're just passing yourself off as smart. People like Pete Buttigieg, transportation secretary? What the fuck does this guy know about transportation? Absolutely nothing. But now you're seeing it. You're seeing lack of flights. You're seeing a shortage of pilots. You're seeing shortage of air traffic personnel. And it just goes on from there. So basically, this 4th of July, we are going to either see a rise in the stock market or more likely see a fall in the stock market, simply because, again, we're facing so much uncertainty and we have idiots in our government. We have people who quickly hold hearings to pass $40 billion of our taxpayer money to Ukraine while Vladimir Putin is kicking their asses and flattening them. And there's no oversight whatsoever for that money. So you already know that there's somebody who's got their hand out, somebody who's stealing, and you'll never even know about it until maybe 30 years from now you'll find out about it. So that's what I've got right now in my government. That's the reason why your stock market is down, because there's so much uncertainty and poor leadership. That's what it really comes down to. I can rant about this for days, but I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more narrow. So here you go. That's where the Dow is right now, 31,500. But what I can say is that the Dow is doing way better than cryptocurrency is doing. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, which are the top cryptocurrencies. Then you have XRP. Now, everybody swore XRP was going to come out of this lawsuit unscathed and that values were going to quickly rise in XRP, Ripple. And you know what? The funny thing is, I had to fight myself not to invest in Ripple. And that was back when Ripple was around 80 to 90 cents. It was hovering between $1 and 80 cents. And I had considered, I was like, you know what, maybe I could just take $100 or $1,000 or whatever and put it in there. And that was at $1. And now you can clearly see Ripple is down to 36 cents. After all of this talk and posturing and bullshit, it's down to 36 cents. Now, I was just on a Discord server arguing with somebody about Ripple. And I was like, they were like, oh, yeah, well, all these companies, they want that Ripple. They want to get into Ripple so that they could easily move money back and forth. And I was like, first of all, what companies are desperate to get into Ripple? I've heard nothing of any major institutions trying to get into Ripple. Now, there are companies that may deal in NFTs and other forms of cryptocurrency that are trying to buy Ripple and buy Bitcoin and buy Stellar, Lumens and stuff like that. And maybe even with Elon Musk and his bullshit, you may have a couple of companies talking up Dogecoin and maybe even talking up Shiba Inu. But the reality is, there's absolutely no reason for these companies to bother with cryptocurrency whatsoever. Now, there are some companies that want cryptocurrency on their balance sheets for whatever reason, and they'll accept payments in cryptocurrency from your average consumer. So AMC Theaters, for example, might accept a cryptocurrency as payment. But the reality is, you have to actually transfer that money in order to spend that money in those theaters. If you go to AMC, they may accept a credit card from, say, Coinbase or a debit card from Coinbase that allows you to cash your dollars into cryptocurrency or your cryptocurrency into dollars and then spend it. But for the most part, there's no reason for them to have this shit on their balance sheets. In fact, I've noticed that many of the companies that have taken major losses in the market and they've seen their values decline quickly are the ones that are popping up to say, oh, yes, well, we want to invest in cryptocurrency and we want to take payments in cryptocurrency, as if they are trying to create excitement for something that otherwise has no excitement behind it. The proof of what I'm saying is all you have to do is look at the values. Bitcoin right now had dropped to a low of 17,800, and right now it's still around 21,379. For everyone who tries to say that Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation, obviously that's not true. It's not a hedge against inflation. In fact, if you look back to Bitcoin's value or any of the cryptocurrency's value, if you look back just 1 year to November before we saw inflation jump up like it did, Bitcoin was at, what is it? If we go back to November, Bitcoin was still at 56,000 in November 2021, 56,900. And it quickly began to decline. And now you're down here to 21,379. That's not a hedge against inflation. In fact, the claims that inflation was reaching a 40-year high, that began this year. Had Bitcoin really wanted to prove that it was a hedge against inflation, then its value wouldn't be down less than $22,000 right now. It just wouldn't be down there. Now, there are some people out there who have cash money and are buying the dip. But then you also have a lot of these other companies that were stupid enough to buy on margin as Bitcoin first reached 10,000 and then 20,000. And they bought on margin and they ended up pushing Bitcoin towards 50 and 60,000. Bitcoin never made it to 70,000. So Bitcoin right now is proving that it's not a hedge against inflation. It's also proved that it's no store of value. Anybody who wants to try to say that I'm wrong has to explain first how Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation and how it's proved that it's a store of value when over 1 year, look at the value over 1 year. A year ago was June 26, 2021. Bitcoin was 32,186. June 26, 2021. Right now, we are at June 26, 2022, and you're down to 21,379. How are you a hedge against inflation or a store of value if exactly 1 year ago you're less than you were 1 year ago? You have to explain that. Look back 2 years. If you look back 2 years before the major pumping really started and before the major institutional buying, i.e. Tesla and other institutions tried to get on the bandwagon and push this shit up, they pushed it up. Look at this. They pushed it to 65 and then it dropped to 30, below 30. Then it rose again to 66. And now we're way down here, 21,000. Now, some people, and you know what's funny? There's some people who I personally know who tried to show me Bitcoin price targets. Now, mind you, Bitcoin isn't even 20 years old. Some of these people have fooled themselves into believing that Bitcoin works exactly like the stock market. It doesn't. Bitcoin more resembles the tech market, partially because the mining of Bitcoin is done using these computers, and that's technology. Whether you're talking about mining altcoins using GPU processors from NVIDIA or AMD, or whether you're talking about buying ASICs or computers to mine Bitcoin directly, it behaves more like a tech stock. It does not behave like a hedge against inflation, i.e. gold. Gold, for example, over the past 30 years, because gold has a far longer history than cryptocurrency, gold has actually managed to hold its value better than cryptocurrency, although the value that it's been holding hasn't been as high because you didn't have as much marginal investment. But there was also something else that people forget. The 0% interest quantitative easing environment didn't exist for gold before 2001. So these people are trying to convince you that cryptocurrency is a hedge against inflation, and they're trying to convince you that it's a store of value. But the problem is the market conditions no longer exist. The Federal Reserve, for example, now let's just think back over the last 3 years. Let's go back to 2019. People were sent home from work, stayed home, were getting welfare checks from the government, and the Federal Reserve had a 0% interest rate where basically they're printing money, which was obviously going to end with inflation increasing because that's what happens when you print money. But people were sitting home, weren't paying their rent, weren't paying their student loans, weren't paying their mortgages. So they had money to gamble and risk in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, i.e. Dogecoin, Shiba Inu. And they pushed the values of these things into the billion-dollar ranges, $8 billion, for example. Dogecoin is worth almost $9 billion. They pushed these values sky high because they weren't spending money properly. And now what you see is there's no movement upwards, with the exception of some people who literally are buying the dip. Here's the problem, though. The dip keeps on dipping. And I didn't even want to make this video about cryptocurrency, but I just had to say this because I had to prove my point. These people were literally saying that these Bitcoin specifically was going to be $100,000 back when it crossed the $60,000 range. And if you watch any of my videos from that time span, even as Bitcoin had the forward momentum, I kept saying it's not going to get to 100,000. They had every opportunity to get it to 100,000 and they still couldn't pull it off. So I didn't really even want to talk about cryptocurrency, but I ended up talking about cryptocurrency. Let me move on. All of the things related to cryptocurrency when it comes to ETFs and stocks are way down. Robinhood, for example, is a shitty trading platform. They suckered people in with good advertising. They were offering people free stocks. They had these, what's a good word? They had these pumpers like Steve Graham, who has his stock channel, talking about all the good and all of the possibilities, the positives. He focused on the positives. I focus on the negatives because I know in the end that these things are Ponzi schemes. So Robinhood, as you can see, is only worth $8, and that is way down, as you can see. Then Coinbase. Coinbase, they thought that they're just going to start up an IPO. Well, they're down from 360, what is this? $368.90. They're down to $62. And I really, really am lucky that I had the foresight to get out of Coinbase. In fact, I think it was Robinhood that came first, and I think I invested, it was one of those two, and I invested in one of those two and realized, wait a minute, this shit isn't going anywhere except down. And what tipped me off was the fact that I realized it was market manipulation, because what these people were doing is they were making it so you couldn't even buy the stock until the initial investors got their money in first. They waited for people to start buying, and as soon as people bought in, they hit the sell button, and then they dropped the value of this shit. And it ain't coming back anytime soon. Because the reality is Coinbase and Robinhood survived around crypto trading. Now there's a dozen crypto wallets. In fact, people are actively steering people away from Robinhood because they're saying if you have your crypto in Robinhood, you don't really own it and you don't have the power to sell and buy when you want. And Robinhood can pause it and stop you, as we saw them do during the AMC and the GameStop ape rise. They literally paused trading to allow the hedge funds to pull their money out. So first of all, there's a lot of illegal market manipulation that the SEC has not addressed. And they had Roaring Kitty come on, and they had a couple of these stupid oversights. But here's the problem. These morons in Congress don't even know the questions to ask. See, if you had me in Congress, I'd tear these people brand new assholes, because I understand exactly what I'm dealing with and I understand the questions to ask that they can't get around. But what you've got is you got these old dumbasses like Elizabeth Warren and what's her name? Maxine Waters, Ted Cruz. These people don't understand this shit. If you could pin one of these morons down and ask these old ass people about what these cryptocurrencies are, none of them could explain it. In fact, I'm willing to bet if you give me the most educated congressperson, I guarantee you I could trip them up and prove that they don't know what they're talking. I guarantee it. Because at the end of the day, I know they don't know what they're talking about. I know that they heard something from somewhere and that they're just repeating it or they're parroting the information. So at the end of the day, this is my leadership. My leadership is a bunch of stupid motherfuckers. And when I say stupid, I want you to say it as if it's spelled STOOPID. Stupid motherfuckers. That's what I've got in my government. And at the best, they're stupid. At the worst, they're criminals. Especially with what you saw them do about Ukraine. Could you imagine how loud the Democrats would be right now if the Republicans had sent money to Ukraine unilaterally? Could you imagine the Democrats and all the shit they'd be talking if you had a Republican like Schmuck Schumer and what's her name? Pelosi sending money, $40 billion to Ukraine. Could you even imagine how much shit they'd be talking? In fact, the Democrats were the ones that as soon as Trump got in office, oh yeah, he's going to start World War III, he's going to start a war. Well, there were a bunch of Republicans who literally got up and said, we don't want to give money to Ukraine. MSNBC and CNN didn't even cover them because they wanted to draw your attention far away from all of that. But you know what? You can fool some of the people some of the time, but Big Truck Series is always watching what you're doing, and he's not fooled by your stupid bullshit. Your stupid bullshit. He's not fooled. I'm watching you, and I'm reporting on what you're doing, whether YouTube allows people to see it or not. I'm watching you. So anyway, let me get away from this crypto shit. Yes, there are huge dips in the market. My oil stocks have held up very well. I would never call my oil stocks a hedge against inflation, especially knowing that energy policies are changing in order to adopt electric vehicles. So I would never say that they're a hedge against inflation. What I will say is that they were an excellent investment at the right time. Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, all of these tech stocks, all of these internet stocks right now are down. But again, this is all short term. Google, as you know, will be doing their stock split very soon. July is coming. I believe by July 8th, you will see that Google has split. Amazon has already done their stock split, and it's complete. Tesla claims that they're planning another stock split, but unfortunately, Tesla, because of Elon Musk, I can't trust it anymore. So the shares that I still hold from Tesla, I'm just going to let them continue to split and whatever. And the value that I have added from Tesla, it'll just be what it is. When I bought into Tesla in 2012, I got in at $30 a share, and I put in enough money where when I cashed out, I was literally able to buy a second house. And it's just that simple. So at this point, I'm leaving Tesla alone. There are other automotive companies that are moving forward and that I consider to be better investments of my money. For example, Ford, GM, and even Stellantis. I've already invested in them. Some of them pay dividends, specifically Ford. And I'm just going to continue where it is. It's like there are a lot of the tech companies that I really do like Roku. Facebook, I don't like. I hate fucking Zuckerberg. Every single time I post up a picture or a meme, it gets fact-checked. I hate Facebook, which is now called Meta. And the reality is, as you can see here, Meta is getting its ass whipped by TikTok. I have personally noticed when you go into New York City and you look at other people, what they're doing, like you look at these kids on their phones, these kids spend a lot of time on TikTok. Every single time I look at what they're doing, they're on TikTok. I think ultimately what it is TikTok has an interface which really reminds me of Vine videos. Like, you remember Vine videos where every video you made had to be really, really short? Well, TikTok has an interface that reminds me a lot of Vine videos. And it seems to be, it feels to me it's like more ADHD than Facebook is. See, Facebook, the way it's designed, Facebook is really designed as like a networking tool for families and friends. When you allow politics to get into it, Facebook becomes really, really toxic really fast. I would wager that the majority of people who've been banned and had these Facebook jail sentences, I'm willing to bet the vast majority of those bans were based on politics. Facebook in and of itself allows you to have the equivalent of AOL Instant Messenger. And that's the only reason why I still really use Facebook. It's because it allows me to communicate with family. But the reality is, Facebook is a shitty platform. And just by saying the wrong thing, you're going to get fucking blocked or banned for 30 days, which is something that continues to happen to me. because I don't pull any punches. It's like I don't give a goddamn what Zuckerberg thinks. It's like whoever is the person who's watching what I'm typing, it's like I'm gonna say whatever I want. And if I get blocked, if I get banned, if I even get if I get my account suspended or even deleted, I don't give a fuck. But the thing about it is, I always maintain a regular account, and I maintain an account where I just keep family members on it, so I know I'm not going to end up arguing with those assholes. So that's the reality, because the thing about it is I refuse to have, my speech curtailed by some jackass like Zuckerberg. I just refuse. And that's just how I am. So the reality is, Facebook, I don't want to invest in Facebook. I don't like Facebook. I see Facebook, or I should call it Meta, but you call it whatever you want. But the thing about it is, the stock is low. I actually had to fight myself not to invest in it when it was at 186. Because when I saw it at 186, I was thinking about it. I was like, hey, it's below $200. I could buy it. And I was like, nah, I don't even want to do that because I don't like Zuckerberg. I don't want to invest in the company. Honestly, I want to see Facebook fail. If TikTok offered a messenger system that I could get the majority of my friends and family on, I'd say fuck Facebook. I'd just leave Facebook and I'd go right to TikTok. TikTok, being a Chinese company, is exactly what the American government doesn't want to see happen, simply because they know that TikTok is real competition for Facebook. The American government uses Facebook and it uses Google, YouTube, in order to conduct investigations behind people. In the old days, they always said that, the government was going to have a supercomputer where it could keep all the information for Americans and everything. But all of that was conspiracy theory. The reality was, once we got social media, we ourselves gave the government our information. In fact, we did our best to force feed the government our information. We told them everything about our vacations. We told them everything about our friends. We told them everything about our family. We have these messengers, people sending nude photos about themselves back and forth, people dating back and forth on this. We gave them that information. They didn't take that information from us. We gave it to them. In fact, I would say the government never could have accomplished what it has accomplished without us doing it. And we were stupid enough to do it. That's why on my Facebook, I get blocked and banned right away because I don't give them any personal information. Every now and then I post memes, I post jokes, I post very little personal information. When I go on vacation, sometimes I'll post that because I'm showing my family what I'm doing. Like when I was in Maldives, I showed them some videos, I showed them some stuff. Thing about it is, I don't give them all my information. I just don't do it. Not only that, thanks to Apple and its privacy systems, Facebook has been losing money because they're unable to track me and they're unable to target me with ads. So I'll just say it very simply again. I want to see Facebook fail because I know Facebook ain't shit. Zuckerberg ain't shit. And just the stuff that I'm saying right now is enough to get me blocked on Facebook. But guess what? He can't block me because I'm doing it on YouTube. Ha, ha, ha. So I don't believe you should invest in Facebook, but you can do whatever you want with your money. Facebook has lost its highs. It used to be the high was over the last 52 weeks was $384. That's the highest it's ever been. I don't think it's going back there. Now that the pandemic's over, now that these kids are addicted to TikTok, I don't think Facebook's ever going to see those highs again. And that's the difference between I basically call them COVID stocks. A lot of stocks went very ballistic and they went to the moon because of COVID, because we were stuck at home and we had nothing else to do. They were able to target us constantly with ads. Even these people at home, they're buying shit off of fucking Amazon because in the back of their mind, they're nothing but consumers and they feel that they have to spend money and they have to have these fucking packages getting delivered. So, they took advantage of that. But guess what? COVID's over. There's what they were calling a great resignation. You have a lot of these people who were resigning from these companies and these positions, and they feel that they don't want to do those jobs and this, that, and other. Well, guess what? The government ain't going to be sending out these welfare checks anymore. The stimulus checks are done. The government knows at this point that they have to raise interest rates. With each interest rate rise, you've seen the overly inflated stock market and the overly inflated crypto market drop. With each stimulus, they have hurt us in the long run. Now, you see most of these states canceling gas taxes. They're running up deficits over the long term. Canceling the gas tax here in New York City and New York State has basically meant that by December, we're going to have a $600 million deficit. The only way that they're going to be able to make that up is by either raising taxes or by doing things just like Hochul did recently, our unelected female governor, unelected, by the way. And she basically made it so that the speed cameras are going to be on 24/7 in order to give you tickets round the clock for exceeding 25 miles per hour. So believe me, that deficit, they're trying to figure out ways to fuck us over. But fortunately, my second house is in Long Island. So, they're not going to be able to get me in the city because I do my best to stay out of the city. When I feel like speeding, I can, and I can do it relatively freely out in Long Island, but not in the city, because if you go beyond 28 miles per hour, or if you go to about 35, 38 miles per hour, you're definitely going to get a ticket in the mail for $50 when you pass those goddamn traffic cameras. So there are some tech stocks that I like. Intel. Intel right now has dropped from its $50 range, and it's around 38 something, 38.61. I like Intel. Intel still pays a dividend, even though its value has declined a little bit. Intel is a good long-term keeper, especially because it pays a 3.7% dividend. AMD doesn't pay a dividend. AMD is down, but if you remember 2 years ago, as per my videos, I was telling you to get AMD when it was $50. AMD at $87, in my opinion, is undervalued. I believe over the next 5 years, these tech stocks that you see right now taking their dips because of these inflation and these unemployment fears, I believe they're going to make their comeback, and they're going to make a comeback very well. Oil stock is still doing its thing, going strong. I'm an oil man. I did my bets on oil. I made my money off oil. Oil stock that I've cashed out is already sending me to Bora Bora, business class. Because as you watch my videos, I'm going to be making business class videos from wherever I go. I don't need, after Bora Bora, I've already done Seychelles. I just did Maldives. Bora Bora might be the last major place in the world that I actually care to travel that long distance to. But the bottom line is, from now on, it's all business class, no matter where I go. I ain't never flying economy again. Why? Because I'm an oil man. And the oil stocks are the way, the truth, and the light. And whether you believe in it or not, whether you want to take your money and invest in Shiba Inu, I'm going to be on a business class flight sipping champagne the whole time while you're sitting at home watching why your Shiba Inus haven't gone up and you're waiting for the boat party that ain't coming. So I tried to tell you, but you didn't listen. So Goodyear Tire is down to $11.68, and that's down from its $25 range. It was $24.89 at its 52-week high. Goodyear Tire is worth investing in. It just is. And again, right now is a little bit of market turmoil, but they're going back to greatness. The question is, do you have diamond hands or paper hands? So as for the automotive companies, as for the airlines, it's basically the same thing. GM has come down over the last, basically the last 3 months. The 52-week high was $67, and right now it's $30. GM is a strong buy, period. It's a strong buy. Ford is definitely a strong buy. Stellantis is still a strong buy. Automotive companies, you got to understand, automotive companies are going to be big for a couple of reasons, probably the wrong reasons. Most of these millennials and these Generation Zers, they're not going to be able to buy a house. I tried to push home ownership, but most of these people, they got shitty credit and they don't have the discipline to even take care of a house. But you have to understand, for these people who are renting, these people are desperate to try to prove themselves to other people. So they feel that they have to drive their money. Automotive companies are basically profitable because you have so many people overspending on automotive mobiles. Because you got to understand, when you're in the street, these people know that they can't show you their wealth. They can't show you their stupid, ugly sneakers. They can't show you their stupid, ugly Balenciaga shoes. They can't show you their ridiculous, bloated Coach bags and Prada bags. When you're walking out in the street or you're driving around, these people can't show you how wealthy they want you to think they are. So what do? They put all their money into a car. So whether that's these women, these young, and I've noticed around here a lot of these women, younger women, I've seen them driving more expensive cars than ever before. I've seen women driving Bentleys and Rolls Royces, Ghosts and Mulsans and shit, and S-classes. I'm seeing more women driving S-classes and E-classes than ever before. These women, what I do notice, because I've told you, when I look at a woman, the first thing I look at is her ring finger. Most of these women ain't got no ring on their finger. So what does that tell you? That tells you that these women are making their money, but they're lonely and they're single. And that's the reality. They're driving around. They've got all of this stuff to make them feel good about themselves. They got their Coach bag, their Prada. They got this, they got that. But what they don't have is a man in their life. And if they do have a man, he's obviously not worth bragging about because he ain't got no ring on her finger. And she's alone in that car. But that's the reality because, I study this shit. I really do. I study this very, very closely. The reality is you got a lot of these people who are desperate to prove that they have wealth that they don't have. I came up with a saying, rich people spend less money trying to look poor than poor people try to spend looking rich. Or you could reverse it. Poor people spend more money trying to look rich than rich people do trying to look poor. When you see most of these super rich people, Bezos, Warren Buffett, you see these guys are dressed like regular people. They dress as regularly as possible. They always have huge security entourages. But when you see the real wealth in this country, when you see these super rich dudes, most of these dudes dress down. They don't even wear suits most of the time. These guys dress down. Mark Zuckerberg is a perfect example. Dressed like a fucking bum. But when he shows up for Congress, he's got a suit on. Thing about it is, look at these rappers who are about an inch away from being killed by another rapper or some jealous dude from their community. These guys got the gold chains. They got ice jewelry. They're wearing all this shit. They got the brand new Jordans studded with diamonds and everything. They're wearing all this bullshit. And meanwhile, these dudes are deep in debt. They don't even have real wealth because they're so deep in debt to the record companies. So my thing is, it's like poor people spend more money trying to look rich than rich people do trying to look poor. The rich people have money that doesn't jiggle. Like if you hear a rich person walking by, you're not even going to know they're there because you don't hear that money. That money is silent. But these dudes are so desperate to be loud. That's part of the reason why these electric cars, that's why they hate them so much. They hate these electric cars because they blend in. They don't allow you to be loud and shit. They don't allow you to drive past people's houses at 4 o'clock in the morning and fucking wake them up. Which, by the way, New York State passed the Sleep Act, and they actually have cameras that can send you a ticket in the mail because the cameras think that your exhaust is too loud. I kid you not. They actually have that. I have to appreciate that because these motherfuckers with these 4 cylinders and these piece of shit turbo engines, I want to see them get so many tickets in the mail that they literally just go into absolute depression and jump off roofs. Like if I saw that happen, I'd be like, yeah, this is hilarious. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel about it. Whether you like it or not, I really don't care. But anyway, other companies worth investing in. I mean, there's value everywhere. Because see, the thing about it is, if you're starting a new portfolio, I've tried to tell you, you should diversify. I personally made my own index, Mangoat, which Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Google, oil stocks, AMD, Amazon, Tesla. You should make your own index, decide what companies you want to invest in, even if it's just 10 companies. And you should take every month a small amount of your money and invest it into those companies. And over time, you will build a portfolio. I've been building my portfolios since I was 20 or 19, I believe, probably about 19. And the reality is I've made a lot of money. Even when I'm honest with myself about the money I have lost, it still comes nowhere near close to the money that I've made because I've picked a lot of winners that have escalated in value, specifically the oil stocks, even, the automotives like Tesla. And, I buy these stock splits, I get as many shares as I can, and I just hold and I just wait. A lot of people, they want to get rich quick. This stock market at this point, you're not going to get rich quick. There are these people who are day traders and they think that they can get rich quick day trading. The reality is we've seen studies done that show that the day traders, as much as they want to pretend that these guys are getting rich, we've seen that day traders are barely making minimum wage when you actually see how much money they make in a year. In most cases, they're barely making $30,000 to $35,000. And there's documented evidence of that. So I can't make that up. So the reality is the stock market ain't going to make you rich. People thought the crypto market was going to make them rich overnight. Obviously, that didn't happen, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. That's why I adamantly said it's not going to happen. There are phone companies. 5G kind of made a splash, but for the most part, it's been mostly calm on the 5G market. Some people were shorting options and stuff with 5G, tech stocks. Cisco, for example. My thing is, it's like, again, you ain't going to get rich with this stuff. If you're lucky, it's a hedge against inflation and you'll hold some value, especially if you buy dividend-paying stocks. But you ain't getting rich off of this shit. It's possible, but it's highly unlikely. In fact, that reminds me, let's go down to talk about the AMC and the GME GameStop people. I got people bothering me with stupid nonsense about AMC is going to the moon and everything. They're still talking like that. GameStop. Now, how much value have these people lost in the last year? Oh, that's right. They were at 325 in 2021 January, and now they're way down to 135. Now, the only people who still kind of won are the people who got in when it was like $5 or $6 or whatever down here, or the people who got in when it was like $3 or whatever. But the problem is you would have had to have bought a lot of it and you would have had to hold it, which most people probably didn't do. And that's exactly what happened with these cryptocurrencies. People who got in early, most of them, they didn't understand that these things were going to be artificially inflated later on. So that a lot of them spent those cryptocurrencies and a lot of them sold out of them because they thought it was a waste of time. Then there are the other people who threw out computers and hard drives that had cryptocurrency on the hard drive. Now they can't find the hard drive or the keys or the password. And they've therefore lost that cryptocurrency. And they've basically become part of the bottom floor. The people who can't sell. The people who would sell if they could but can't. Can you imagine how many people bought Bitcoin early on, but they had such shitty and inferior Bitcoin wallets that they might have access to $10 million or maybe a couple $1 million, but they can't even get access to it? There was a couple of stories about that. There was one who tried to get people to search a landfill for his hard drive, and he promised he'd pay them. But that was all bullshit. I mean, whether or not it was true or not, that was never gonna turn out well. But, that's just what it is. It's like these people, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. So the Reddit short squeezes are basically over. Reddit short squeezes were nothing more than pump and dump scams. You're seeing more and more of these schemes and scams everywhere, and I guess that's where I'm going to get ready to end this video. The crypto scams, the Forex scams, a lot of these people are determined not to work, and they're determined to just be scam artists. And at the end of the day, I guess some of them figure that if they're scam artists and they do it with crypto or they do it with Forex, I think a lot of them think that they'll never be caught or that they'll get away with it. But it's really disgusting. It's really, really, really disgusting what this entire market has turned into. It's turned into just scams. Now, scams have always existed. I mean, you always had penny stock scams, Ponzi schemes. That's always existed. But these people have taken this shit to the next level. They've just taken it to the next level. And the government, with its low interest rate quantitative easing policies, helped them do it. That's why you never saw the SEC and the IRS serious about any of this shit, because they were pumping the stock market. Now, some of it is dumping off. But fortunately, because these are real companies that have real balance sheets and real profits, a lot of them are safe in that they're never going to go to zero, and they're not going to lose too much value because these are real companies. It's like, banks, airlines, automotive companies. A lot of them aren't going anywhere. They may lose some value, but they're not going anywhere. There's huge sales right now in the banking industry because the banks do pay dividends. And, there's lots of sales in those stocks. But the question is, how much money do you even have right now left over to possibly invest? For most people, the answer is not a lot. And the reason why is very simple. It's because energy prices, food prices, it's stripping your pockets. It's just stripping your pockets. So there's not much you really can do. But that's just where we are. That's just what the market looks like. Again, the airlines are way down. JetBlue right here is $8.62. Look at that. And when I was telling you to buy it before, it was this low. And then it went up to about $25, $26, and now it's back down. Same thing goes for American Airlines and United Airlines. There's a lot of value in these things. Look at these things over the last 2 years. There's a lot of value in it. Problem is, right now, they're unprofitable. And the airlines, whenever there's a major problem, airlines tend to suffer because either people can't afford to travel or people are afraid to travel or whatever. But the bottom line is, the airlines, it's like those are stocks that you short. Those are stocks that if you hold it long term, you only do that if you got in when they were very low. But for the most part, the airlines never get that high. I mean, even at its highest, United Airlines was not even $100, even at its highest. Even at the highest point, it wasn't even $100. But, that's just what it is. Boeing is definitely worth buying. Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin. While we're funneling money over to the Ukrainians who are getting their asses whipped by Vladimir Putin, who, by the way, is basically going to end up being Europe's savior when winter comes around and these people are freezing to death in their houses. We wasted all that goddamn money, and what did we get out of it? Pelosi and Schumer and these idiot Democrats, I want to see them out of office in the worst way. If I had to choose between who I want to get rid of more, them or Mark Zuckerberg, I'd probably pick them, But I don't have the ability to make those choices. The voters do. And in November, we're going to send them a message. I know right now, because of this, what they call it an abortion ban, it's not an abortion ban. The Supreme Court put abortion back to states' rights. They didn't ban abortion. They just took the federal control out of it. That's what Roe versus... See, you got to understand, what these liberals want to do is they want to impose federal law nationwide. They want to make it so that they can take New York's gun laws and California's gun laws, and they want to impose that all over the country. They want to take California and New York's abortion laws, and they want to impose that on the entire country. Fortunately, there's enough pushback to say, no, we're not doing that. You're not doing that. I'm not doing that. I think a lot of people forget that America was born out of rebellion. That's what the Revolutionary War was all about. The king said, you're going to do this. And we said, fuck that. We're not going to do that. And we'll kill you and any of your troops that come here. See, for some reason, these liberals think that not only, number one, that we're all stupid and we don't know history, they also think that we don't know civics, and they also think that they can somehow engineer out of mankind the violence that we've evolved with over, what, humans have only been around less than 2 million years. Well, I have an answer for them. No, you're not. No, you can't. And no, I won't. So when you told me that you didn't want me to have an AR-15, the first gun I went out and bought was an AR-15. If you're telling me right now, what is it? You want me to support you for abortion rights? I'm telling you, no, I'm not. I'm not going to support you. Clarence Thomas kicked your ass. I'm not supporting you. I'm not. So I think for some reason they feel that they can somehow remove that. It's like a genetic code built into us as Americans for rebellion. And they think they can remove it. Somehow they think they can either remove it or suppress it. But again, I'm going to tell them real simple. No, you're not. And no, you can't. And no, I won't. The answer is no. And they think that they can impose their will nationwide. But as long as there are people who don't bow down, who refuse to comply, and as long as there are people who are just ready to say no, they'll never be able to do that. And that's what it really means to be an American. It really means that you're ready to rebel no matter what the cost. That is what we call freedom. So I'm not even here to talk about civics right now because I already kind of did that in the last video about Roe versus Wade that I made. But I foresee some serious pain in this market for the next year or two. Fortunately, the money that I have in my Charles Schwab, my TD Ameritrade, my E-Trade, fortunately, I don't need that money right now. Fortunately, I'm comfortable making money, and I'm comfortable being able to go on $10,000 world tours and shit in business class. I'm comfortable right now. I can do that. But I foresee some real pain in this market coming for regular people who aren't prepared. So I guess what some people would probably ask is, well, what should I be doing to get prepared? What should I do? Well, I guess I'll end this part right here by saying the main thing you need to do is you need to pay down your debts. If you have credit cards, you need to have credit cards with $0 balances. If you're using a credit card, you need to be paying that credit card off every single night. For example, I just went out, bought my mother and my father new bed. Basically the way the bed is designed, it's like an adjustable bed and everything, queen size, and this, that, and other, and got them brand new mattresses and new pillows and all that. And the thing about it is, when I get the bill, I'm paying it off immediately. I'm going to suck up the points, use those points towards my next vacation, but I'm going to just suck up the points. When I get utility bills, I use my credit card to pay just about all my utility bills, and then I pay the credit card off and I suck up the points. But the first thing, again, you have to pay off your debts. If you've got student loans, you need to be focused on paying those down as much as possible. Now, I know they're probably in the $10,000 to $30,000, possibly even $40,000 or $50,000 range. But your student loans, before you can invest in anything, you need to pay down your student loans. You need to pay off your credit cards, but you need to pay down your student loans immediately. And that's the main thing that you can do to protect yourself. The other thing that you should naturally do that they always tell you is that you should have money saved up in the event that you get laid off or fired from your job. Some people say you should have at least 6 months of savings. Me personally, I think you should have at least 1 year. Personally, for myself, I have 5 years worth of income saved. That's not an easy thing to accomplish, but it's something that, the more you have, the better you are. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to get laid off or fired. I'm just saying that the more you have saved up and the less debt you have, the better off you'll be. Other things you could do to prepare is to make sure your housing is stable. So if you're renting, fine. If you can't find anything that you could buy to get some equity, okay, fine. But make sure that that's stable. If you have a 2-year lease agreement, 3-year lease agreement, okay, fine. That makes sure you're stable for 3 years. Obviously, your landlord, if he's like me, has taken a security deposit. And if you stop paying him for whatever reason, he's going to be drawn out of your security deposit. Personally, if you could have or have bought a house, that will make you more stable than anything else, because if you do get raises in your income, your fixed mortgage stays fixed. Your taxes and insurance may waver a little bit, but at least your mortgage is stable. So those are really the 3 main things. You pay down your debt, you stabilize your spending, you stabilize your housing. Those are the major things that you can do. You stabilize your savings. This market, I believe the Republicans this year are going to wipe the Democrats out. The Democrats think that because of Roe versus Wade, they think that they're going to get some massive influx of voters to protect them. But the reality is they're forgetting about the fact that this economy sucks. They're forgetting about the fact that as we get close to winter, a lot of Americans are going to be hurting because of energy costs. They have a false sense of rally. They think that this Roe versus Wade decision and this gun decision helped them. The reality is it doesn't help them. The women who were going to vote Democrat were already going to vote Democrat. And they've already proved with the election of Trump that as long as the Democrats aren't cheating or doing that cheat by mail shit, that they are going to lose. The situation is much, much worse now. Unemployment may go as high as 10%. Even Elon Musk is saying that, and that guy is a fucking asshole, and he's crazy. But unemployment could get as high as 10%. They're talking about the possibility of mass layoffs. They're also talking about shortages in many high-tech areas. So for all you people who hate immigration and you don't like immigrants, you may have no choice but to allow immigrants in, because they're going to be able to do jobs that you can't do. Because most of you people ain't fucking smart enough to be medical assistants. You're not even going to school for it. It's like, if we need pilots right now, there are some countries where we could pull some pilots from. Most of y'all can't do that shit. How many of y'all spent the time to go to ground school? How many of y'all spent the time to learn air traffic navigation? You already know the answer to that is fucking none of you. So a lot of you don't like the immigrants. You don't like seeing them come in here and changing what you believe America is. But the reality is they got to get somebody to run this shit somehow. They may even bring these people from Ukraine and put them people in these pilot seats. Because, after all, they ain't got nothing to go back to. Vladimir Putin flattened their house. So the reality is, it's like, we got to do something. What are we going to do? You're not doing shit. Most of you don't have families. You don't have wives. You have no children. More men now are single, unmarried, and childless than in the last, whatever. You're not doing nothing. So we got to replace you somehow. Because what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to stare at you while you collect welfare checks? No. We're supposed to wait until you become a billionaire off of fucking Dogecoin? No. No. So that's just the reality. That's the real State of the Union. When I come on here, that's what I'm delivering. I'm delivering the real State of the Union, not that stupid shit that Biden comes on when he's falling off his bicycle. I haven't fallen off my bicycle since I was 5. But Jesus Christ, it's like that's the real State of the Union. You're facing unemployment. You're facing mass layoffs, and you're facing market dips and supply shortages. That's what the real State of the Union looks like. So that's my stock rant. I ain't got much else to say, but that's just where we are.